Hey guys, it's Norm from Tested. I'm here with Jim Price. We are in your home, in your garage, but it's not an ordinary garage because behind us, it looks like an airplane. What is this behind us?
Boeing 737, built in 1968 or 69. It cycled out in 1987 and was going to be scrapped. And so I decided to save her and cut her off at the section that I wanted and had them trucked it out here and began my project with the 737 simulator.
So that's what this is. It's not just the cockpit and the fuselage of a 737. It is a real working flight simulator that you've built out in your garage.
Yes. 90% of the systems are working. We've all been custom programmed by me and my friend Matt Ford. And we have an instructor station for engine failures and fires and all kinds of different scenarios. And every system in the overhead panel and the instrument panel, all those work the way they're supposed to in the real airplane.
Oh my goodness. So take me back to the very beginning. So Jim, by trade, you're an air traffic controller. You live and breathe airplanes, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And you're a pilot also?
I'm a pilot as well, yes. I own my own Piper Arrow. And I started flying in 1980, and I picked up the flight simulator hobby in 1994 when I was getting my instrument rating.
Yeah, so it's computer monitors, and you've built like flight simulators before. Before you started this project, you just had one out of wood, right?
Correct. It started in the corner of my office, and it was a single-seater, and I put in a wood overhead panel with the real overhead panel insert. And after a while, I decided, well, I may as well go full bore. I wanted a two-seater, the real size, and the whole 9 yards. So in the same room, I built a complete substructure, overhead panels, the whole thing, so it was actual same size as the real cockpit, turn it into a full cockpit.
So how did this opportunity come up to actually get a real 737 and build a simulator in that?
Well, Matt Ford was the first one to actually buy one. He lives in Dallas, or lived in Dallas at the time, and he knew of a wrecking yard up in Ardmore, Oklahoma. And he and his brother were flying over there one day, and they saw all these carcasses of 737 sitting on the ground, so he went and inquired. And he actually bought one on the spot, the sister ship to this one. And it's actually a little bit smaller than mine. His was already cut. But he's the one that turned me on to it, and then I got excited about it. And then in June of 2000, I decided to buy my own.
Wow, so it's 12 years as a project, and you're not finished yet. You said you're going to paint it, but...
Yeah, I want to finish her up. I want to paint it. I'm going to put the Boeing Dreamliner paint scheme on it, hopefully. I'm not sure how it's going to work with just the cockpit section. And then I want to completely redo the visual system for the outside. I've concentrated for years on the inside of the cockpit to get everything working. And that's finally at a point where I think it's pretty good. So now it's time to enhance the outside.
Yeah, let's talk about the inside of the cockpit. So you buy the frame, you buy the nose of a plane, and that's cool to look at, but on the inside you have all the instrument panels. Like, how do you go about buying the same instrument panels that go into real planes?
They're all retired planes that these parts are laying around, and they either can't be put back in a plane again for safety reasons, or they just want to get rid of them. So once in a while, a lucky hobbyist like me can actually get in and get a good deal, because normally they're very, very expensive.
All right, Jim, we've talked a lot about the construction, the instrumentation, the systems of this 737 simulator. Let's go inside the cockpit and actually take a look at those systems.
Fantastic.
Okay, Jim, we're in the cockpit. This looks like it's what I know a 737 looks like. I am absolutely blown away. This is not at all what I was expecting, even after seeing the pictures.
Thank you.
This is awesome. This is really amazing. How much of the stuff is original from an actual plane? How much is it like aftermarket kit stuff for cockpit enthusiasts? How much is stuff that you came up with yourself?
It's not real simple to answer. I could point out what's real and what's not.
Yeah, let's give some examples. So obviously
control wheels,
okay.
Control columns. This is the real 737 200 throttle pedestal.
Okay.
These are your throttles just like a boat.
Okay.
You
This is exactly like a boat.
You can see the engine power actually coming up as I push them forward. So all of these are actual real components. Radio heads, intercom system, trim panels. This is the unlock the door in the back and stab trim and stuff.
Okay.
Transponder, which actually beams your discrete beacon code to ATC.
So that tells you where we are.
Exactly.
When you're at work.
Right.
Okay.
And you can change that simply by, they'll tell you to squawk a certain number. They call it squawking.
Okay.
And you type it in there, and now they know where you are and who you are.
So when you're flying the plane, do you have other friends that sim the air traffic control side? And
There is a whole online community where you can do a full-on ATC flight from just about any point in the world.
oh, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Some people like to do the controlling side of it. Some people do the flying, and you can actually see them. If you're at an airport, you can hear them and see them taxiing around. It's all linked together via the internet.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's
That's
crazy.
And so the software you're running is X-Plane. That's the core sim software for the whole project.
X-Plane 10, yes.
Okay. And I think you said you earlier started with Flight Simulator, but X-Plane seems like it's more conducive to the hardcore.
I
sim
used
community.
Flight Simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator for years and years and years, and it was really great for what it did. I switched to X-Plane because I think the flight dynamics are much more realistic.
Okay. So when you take a piece of actual equipment that came from a plane, obviously the electronics behind the switches aren't the original electronics.
Right.
Explain a little bit about how you're connecting all this stuff into the machine, and how did you figure out how to? I mean, all this stuff is wired up, right?
It is. It is.
That's amazing. So you pull the panels out and just do a ton of soldering?
A ton of soldering. Basically, what you're looking for is you want the front, the face. That's the main important part,
Okay.
because you get the real feel of the real switches, the lights, and all that. Behind it, with my setup with the Epic card, it's basically a matrix setup, eight switches per line.
Okay.
And my friend Ted Deller's actually made circuit boards where you can wire into the circuit boards and it'll plug in via ribbon cable to the Epic card.
Okay.
And so you just recognize the switch change, right? And then in the software, it sees that and you tell it what you want it to do.
So first you have to wire up all the panels, and then I assume you're going to sit in here flipping switches, and you're going to say what that switch is, and somebody on the other side of the computer is going to say, hey, okay, we'll make that one. Here's.
If you want to turn on the landing light,
Yeah.
you see this switch go clink, clink, on, off. And you send a command to Flight Simulator, turn on your landing
That's
light.
the landing light.
And that's
Okay.
what it does.
Seems really straightforward when you put it that way.
It's straightforward, but the logic in getting them to work like the real system, that's where the challenge is.
And I assume that this is way more work than you did by yourself. When you pulled all these panels out and wired them up, were you just sitting soldering for months and months and months on end, or?
I had a lot of help.
Okay.
My friends Matt Ford, Ted Deller, Matt Wheatlisback, they all have their own projects. We've kind of formed this tight-knit little group, and we fly to each other's locations, and we'll sit there for a whole weekend and solder panels and drink beer, and then we hopefully by the time that we have to leave, we'll get an hour to fly.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we spend the entire time on the bench or underneath the cockpit, or and so to do this entire thing myself, I would still be working on it, probably only be 25% done.
And right now, so virtually everything we're looking at here, including some of the stuff, there's stuff behind me too,
Circuit breaker panels are all real.
all wired into the sim. How does that interact with the sim? Like, how many computers do you have running all this stuff?
I think I have 5 or 6 computers now, I've lost track. Each one has their own specialty. Like one computer runs this whole display system across the front.
Okay.
Which is one of the parts that isn't out of the real aircraft. These are actually just LCDs behind these panels. These are the real bezels out of the airplane, but
Okay.
everything behind it is not.
Well, I have to assume that the glass panels in modern planes haven't been cycled through enough to wind up in scrap yards yet.
Not
right?
only that, but they're very, very difficult to interface, to talk to. They require special power and inputs and all kinds of different things. And then all the display, the navigation and the engine displays, all that's written by Mark Hastings with Sim Avionics. He's got the complete custom suite. He does all the autopilot stuff, the flight management system, everything.
So what isn't wired up? Show me.
What isn't wired up?
Show me the thing that doesn't work. I'm looking everywhere I look.
That's going to be tough because a lot of fire bells and
That's scary.
you need a drink from the back.
Hey Norm, I'd like a gin and tonic, please. This is probably the only 737 you can fly and have cocktails at the
That's
same
right.
time.
That's right.
Okay.
And your landings get better.
No cup holders though, Jim. Well, I take it back. There's
There
a
are
cup holder
cup
down here on
holders.
the right. That's fantastic.
One of the first things that went in.
So, explain to me how you're simming the navigation stuff.
So Mark Hastings' software is doing the actual logic, the ground tracking, the turning, the autopilot systems as far as automatically climbing, descending, turning. He does all that in his software, and then there's a plugin for X-Plane. It's called XP-UIPC, and it's written by Torsten Spearing in Germany. So that allows us to send data and receive data back from X-Plane, and that's kind of the link with the software.
So you have navigation software that ties into sim GPS that tracks your simulated position, that then fires that back into the plane simulator to tell you where you are, and then that talks to the autopilot, so the autopilot can get you where you're going.
Right, it all ties
That's
together.
Bananas. This is absolutely bananas. And it seems like dozens of people have contributed different pieces to the software that you all share for your different projects, which is amazing.
It is. And without that, it wouldn't be possible. I mean, there's no way, I don't think, that one person could sit down and do the whole thing.
Is there a real black box?
It's red.
It's red,
Well,
okay.
orange, actually, but not in this one.
Not in this one. No need, I guess.
I did have it set up with a taping system as well as some cameras, so if someone came to fly, I could send them home with the VHS tape. At this time, that hasn't been reconnected.
So let's talk a little bit about the screens and stuff, because you said you've spent hours, hundreds and thousands of hours building the cockpit out and haven't really focused so much on the outside, but this looks great to me.
Well, you're right. I've spent my entire life practically making it real in here. Because a lot of times, actually, when I'm flying, I'm in the clouds, you don't really see anything. But the screens outside, they're just regular pull-down screens. I've got three 1024 by 768 projectors, so it's all projection system.
Okay.
I want to eventually upgrade the projectors, and I also want to do a complete curved screen so you don't get the gaps in the middle and everything. And I need to add 2 more computers to get the correct angles on the side. Because right now on the sides it's kind of stretched just by the way it sets up. So I still have a lot of work to do out there, and it can look a lot better.
So how mobile is this? Is this something that you can, it seems like it's a pretty big undertaking if you wanted to move it.
Huge.
Okay.
Huge. Yes.
Trucks and forklifts and cutting holes in the side of the garage.
Flatbed trucks, and you're pulling out the garage door and the header, and yeah, there's quite a bit involved.
Okay. Well, Jim, thank you so much for showing us around your cockpit. This is absolutely amazing.
You're welcome.
I unlike anything I ever expected to see. You have a website that we should definitely talk about.
Yes, 737simguy.com.
Okay.
It's a little bit outdated, but I need to work on that.
People want to learn more, then they can go there and find out. You've documented the entire project, more or less?
More or less.
It's a big project, so a lot of documentation.
And another good spot is cockpitbuilders.com.
Okay.
It's all people doing the same sort of thing, and a great place to learn and get ideas and share ideas.
Fantastic. We'll be back real soon. You're going to take us on a flight. And until then, I'm Will from Tested. See you guys later.